We do have some new information to share about possibly this being towards the very end of this new Nintendo Switch hardware development in terms of the software needed for the operating system and the functionality of the console. Nintendo is hiring, as of September 23rd, for the first time that I've noticed, a ETL engineer. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. So basically this is a highly qualified data engineer that will debug software. And a good example of debugging in this type of way would be to extract all the code from an operating system, for example, and then validate the code and then transform, quote unquote, by making any changes as far as compatibility is concerned or updates to it, and then load that back on to the hardware and get everything to work smoothly. And as was brought out earlier in the video, Nintendo was hiring for a software engineer that would be working on OS virtualization, including that Virtio driver. So an ETL engineer makes sense to be brought on at the very end of the software development on this new console before it's released or announced, to make sure everything is running correctly, to go through all the lines of code and to analyze it, and then to make any modifications needed and then re-upload that onto the operating system or the software it's running on the console itself, in order to make sure everything is running just right. It's all lining up together with everything that has been reported for the past year or so to finally lead up to Nintendo actually announcing this console. No doubt they're probably already having prototypes of this thing in development. They already have their sharp Exo displays in place, what have you. And so obviously the hardware is done, the software is ready to go, it's being tested, it's being debugged. Now Nintendo just needs to announce this thing and then we're good to go. You think they don't want that money on their console? You're fooling yourself. So yeah, they will be releasing a new console very soon, obviously. Everything points more to it than not. So yeah, you're all welcome to your opinion as to whether or not they will or not, but there's all the likelihood is right there in front of your eyes for yourself. Anyone who doesn't see it and actually look at the information for yourself without, take off the goggles there. If you actually see the information for yourself, you can see that it's coming very soon. You see, you can tell yourself, no, they'll wait for 5 years, but the information doesn't support it. The actual real information, not even rumors. So yeah, Nintendo does announce this system. We'll be back here talking about it. It's going to be pretty funny seeing some of these reactions by people when that happens. Factual evidence points to it coming next year. I'm not even speculation. So yeah, more than likely it's coming next year, whether you guys in the chat believe it or not, some of you who don't believe whatever, because you think Nintendo can just do whatever and just let these other companies take the consumer's money from from you guys. So no. The new Switch that's coming, it's not going anywhere. There's going to be even more information is going to keep coming about it. So we're going to keep talking about it until they reveal it. We'll do an unboxing here, whatever. We'll cover the new Switch here, definitely. It's going to be really exciting when it does happen, which will be soon.
Think for yourself. Question authority.
What's up, guys? We are back. Let me know how y'all are doing in the chat. So the reason why I showed all that stuff is because we talked about, I think, what was it, last month, just a little over 3 weeks ago. There's still a lot of doubt as far as whether or not this new Switch was coming in 2020. So all the information, if you've been following me, like shout outs to you guys, the fans who've been following everything we've been doing here on the channel since mid 2018. All the information was obviously pointing to a new console being in development and then about to be going into production, and then of course to be announced soon. So here we are, and it was announced or reported that the new Switch is starting production in Q1 of 2020. So, yeah. So hi everybody in the chat. I already tweeted out the information. So we're good to go there. So hope you guys all are doing well. Thanks for watching the videos and everything. It's been a really crazy quick start to 2020. So it's been really exciting stuff going on. I wasn't expecting things to get so, going so fast with the new Switch hardware information being reported, but it sure, happened pretty quick. So it's pretty crazy. Goat 816, thanks for coming by. Let's see, can't stay too long. Okay, but you can always check it later. It will be live on the channel after we're offline, so everything should be fine there. So anyway, we have a lot to discuss. There's a lot to discuss about what's going on here. Hey, Hans Gruber. Hey, I just watched you in Die Hard the other day. Good job, buddy. So, that's a big holiday movie to watch for everybody. Fun movie. So if you looked at the intro there, we talked about a lot of people may have missed that information because it was a 28-minute video for the ultimate, all the information put together in that ultimate video I did in October 7th. And it was at the very end that I brought out there was an ETL software engineer that was hired by Nintendo to work basically on debugging of an operating system of a new console. Usually that happens at the very end of development, like I talked about in that video just 3 months ago. And sure enough, it looks like they finished their development as what was brought out in that video. Like that was like the end, basically. We've been covering all this whole thing since 2018, and like we talked about how they were hiring for multi-threaded software development for basically an SoC, asynchronous computing for a GPU, all these things that the current Switch doesn't do. And then of course 3D spatial audio, things like that. And then we have these debugging things going on. We have operating system functionality being worked on. Obviously the current Switch wouldn't really need that type of stuff to be done because it's already there, it's already done. But like debugging it and stuff like that, really in-depth stuff they were doing for just the current Switch. Obviously, this was a new piece of hardware, and going through all those lines of code to have compatibility with obviously probably the current Switch, backwards compatibility. We went through all that information in 2019, and step by step by step by step, and it was just really, really cool. It was almost like putting all the pieces together for ourselves here on this channel, just with you and me, you guys following me and everything. Obviously, I'm not the biggest channel in the world or anything, but those who have been following this step by step could see everything playing out. All we needed, though, this whole time, which was what other YouTubers and everything were doubting, was an actual, report or indication that something was coming in 2020, or even. It was speculated at first to be 2019, but it looks like as far as what was being covered on this channel, there was a little bit more work to be done there with the operating system, maybe backwards compatibility, virtualization of an operating system. We covered that earlier in the year of last year as well for running an operating system, which would obviously be the Nintendo Switch. So there's a new SoC there obviously going on there, and as was reported by Digitimes with their production. I'll get to your questions too in a little bit. I'm going to keep talking here and go over the information with you guys first. So as reported by Digitimes, leaked from one of their suppliers, obviously most likely from Foxconn, they said that a new Nintendo Switch model is going to be starting mass production. So volume production, they said, for release in mid 2020 to start production by, I guess, the millions by the end of Q1 2020. And that was pretty much exactly what I was expecting them to do. Because if you saw the information leading up to that point, you would see that the next step would have been to be entering into mass production. So it's really cool that everything basically is turning out exactly as we covered on the channel. That's what's really fun about this whole thing. And we're like a close-knit group here of fans, and and we're just seeing everything happen. And media and other channels on YouTube are pretty much have been oblivious to this because they haven't been following my channel. Maybe except for a few, obviously, like Review Tech USA, great guy, and shout outs to him for having me on his channel. It looks like, let's see, I was on his channel back in October, and it looks like the stuff that we covered on his channel has been, pretty much spot on so far. So we're heading into mass production and then an announcement and then the release of this new console. Basically in that announcement or report by Digitimes, it talked about how this new Switch would be having a magnesium alloy body. As we know, the current Switch has some issues with the heat and warping and reports of warping, and they have pictures of it online and everything, and also there has been cracked systems breaking from the heat, from the dissipation of the exhaust on there, and so it was needed to have a better, more sturdy body. But it's interesting that they chose magnesium alloy because that would be the first Nintendo console to actually have that type of structure as far as build is concerned. The 3DS didn't have it. Other past Nintendo handhelds never had it. So they want something really sturdy here. And what's interesting about that is that I didn't talk about this in my last video because there's just so much information to go over. That's why we're doing a live stream. But one benefit of that, besides the protection of dropping and things like that, you drop it on the ground, it doesn't break. Magnesium alloy is used in cars, it's used in aircrafts and other electronic devices like laptops. Extremely durable, but extremely lightweight as well. So it's really hard to break. You can't break it, obviously you probably could, but really hard to just physically break yourself. But it's very, very light. And so basically the whole point of that was obviously to have durability, and then to have it able to last for a very long time. It's going to last for years and years and years. But also, one thing that I didn't bring up was that when you dock this Switch, it can now be has the ability, due to the extreme durability of that heat protection, it can actually be overclocked way farther than what the current Switch can be docked. So you could be looking at substantially better performance while docked, and having some tricks they do, whatever, when you're in portable mode, obviously. So you could actually have a much better, maybe higher resolution while docked, because you need that on your 4K TV, as opposed to being in handheld mode. So that heat protection actually allows them to actually overclock this new Nintendo Switch even more so while docked, which is fantastic. They actually have obviously I don't have the console to know they're doing that, but it allows them to not worry about the heat of it being overheating, basically, if they overclock it a lot. Obviously, we have a lot of people online who do overclocking and hacking of the Switch already, like modern vintage gamers. So it is possible, but obviously it's not safe as far as the heat is concerned of the console. All right, so somebody wants to be mods. Is there somebody being mean in the chat? Anyway, if you just ignore them, they'll go away. That's what I do. So basically, hey, what's up, YXBA? So it's really exciting. That magnesium alloy really allows them to do a lot more things with the current Switch, with the upcoming Switch, than what they could do with the current one. Due to that fact, it's actually just the fact that it has magnesium alloy allows it to actually be a much more capable system while docked because of that fact. You don't have to worry about it overheating or melting or whatever, things like that. So you can actually benefit from that, and the fact that it won't break, and the fact that it won't overheat, all that good stuff. Magnesium alloy is an excellent premium material that Nintendo will be using on this new Switch. And then, of course, you got that reported sharp exo screen. Again, back in August, Michizuki, who retweeted the Digitimes report and cited that his article talking about those exo displays, that they will be using future upgraded Switch models to make the console's life cycle long. Well, so, if you're adding those things to this system, magnesium alloy and the bezel-less screens, the sharp ISO display, and a better SoC. And the reason why we know it's an improved, more powerful switch, not just because, like I said in my last video, not just because they said it's a better CPU. This is a Foxconn leak. So this is a supplier who actually saw some kind of physical diagram or measurements of the actual motherboard socket itself. So that's how they could know that the CPU is better. And obviously it's not a CPU they would know about, it's an APU. It's the entire chip that has the GPU embedded onto the chip itself. The reason why they would know it's a better CPU is because of the measurements of it. So they could tell just by looking at it that this is not the same type of measurements as the original Nintendo Switch or the Switch Revision or the Switch Lite. It's a different type of chip. So just from that fact, they probably could tell it's more modern. There's something about it that looks like it would make it basically better technology than what Nintendo's currently using. And I also discussed in my last video that it's not going to be the Tegra X1 Plus processor that NVIDIA modified, because that is still 20 nanometers. It's still the exact same size chip. It's just a little bit improved, probably with power consumption, obviously, and they can overclock it more or what have you. But it's only 25% more performance than the original one. So just from that fact that they could tell that it was a more improved, better CPU by the manufacturers proves right there that it's not the same chip, because the size is what they're looking at. They don't have, they're not talking about specs. They're talking about manufacturing from what they're seeing there. So that's the cool thing about it. So due to that magnesium alloy, better chip and everything, all those things combined, most likely it's a smaller fabrication process, maybe 7 nanometers. And then that will allow them to increase the clock speeds further and further and further up and up, and decrease the power consumption down, which would also enable them to have a lower watt power device with higher clock speeds due to that smaller fabrication process. Also IPC advantages and improvements over the years and chip technology. The sky's the limit, for what they could do here. So it's really exciting to see this going on so quickly in 2020. So it's only January 11th, which is the anniversary of Resident Evil 4. So congrats to that game, 15-year anniversary. That's really awesome. If you haven't seen my full playthrough of that game, I have it on the channel. It's like 9 hours long. If you want to relive that moment of that game, it's a great game. But yeah, there is a lot of improvements with mobile technology going on with AMD, Intel, Imaginations Technologies, who's going to be powering the new Apple iPhones. They also announced their new chip graphics GPU for mobile devices in December for Apple, and they signed a new contract with them. Over 2 teraflops of performance that they're doing, and that is a small company. I mean, compared to AMD, NVIDIA, Nintendo, and all these other companies, Imaginations Technologies, they make Power VR. They almost went out of business back in 2017 when they lost their contract with Apple, but they just released this new. They just finished up their new mobile GPU that's over 2 teraflops of performance, which is 10 times more powerful than the Nintendo Switch in portable mode, about 5 times more powerful in docked mode from the Nintendo Switch, which is 400 gigaflops compared to 2 teraflops. It's 5 times more powerful than the Switch just in docked mode currently. So mobile technology has way surpassed what the current Switch can do. So there is a lot of things Nintendo can do with this new Switch coming. So it's really, really exciting. And there is all kinds of benefits from using this power, for example, like what they're reportedly using, like the sharp ISO displays. They can use higher resolutions, no bezels, basically, or small bezels. Higher refresh rate also is one of them, which would lead into something basically like how Nintendo did the 3DS. The 3DS had some extra abilities besides just 3D display. and more power than the DS. It had the capability of doing AR with its cameras and things like that. And Furukawa was talking to that in that interview from Nikkei, talking about various different things, talking about how Nintendo is more excited about technology, or more interested in technology now, and how they're moving forward. They're researching AR and things like that also. Obviously, you need a camera to do AR. So the current Switch doesn't have AR capabilities. So that's another possibility that this new Switch may also have maybe a little camera on the system as well to do AR stuff with. Who knows? But Furukawa made it clear that Nintendo is interested in using technology for surprising and delighting their fans. And when talking about new technology, that's what's been the focus really lately with games, is that using technology to surprise people as far as how the graphics look, how the gameplay interacts with the world, beautiful environments, things like that. And then when developers have a gameplay technique, when they think about gameplay and then they can adapt it to new technology, from what he said, that's when it all comes together. So to hear Nintendo talk about new technology in that way is kind of more than just a coincidence, I would think, because this new Switch is most likely entering in production here. He's saying these things right at the same time. Everything seems to line up for that to be happening. And not saying that Nintendo is competing on a graphics level or ever will be with PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X. Not saying that, but they do recognize that new technologies will make their fans excited to buy their products going forward. So in the past, Iwata, Miyamoto, and all these other guys in the past have always said similar, in a different kind of way. They would use the interface of their previous Nintendo consoles as being what would advance gaming. It hasn't been since, I believe, the Nintendo 64 that Miyamoto talked about how the introduction into full 3D graphics will really be revolutionary for Super Mario, which it was. So since that time, they haven't really talked about advancements in technology being exciting and to surprise people as far as that's concerned, and then integrating your gameplay ideas into that technology. I haven't really talked about that much. Ever since the Wii and DS, it's always been disruptive blue ocean strategy to adopt people who haven't been playing games before or haven't played games in a long time, with motion controls and dual screens and things like that, and then having interaction with your family and bringing them in. So then to start talking about new technology, and then having reports of a new, more powerful Switch starting production. Hey, it's just all lining up to make perfect sense for it to happen this year, which is what they're reporting on. Exactly. Super Male Vitality Overdose. I'll never forget your name. Super Metal Switch 2020. You're right. They're not going to call it that, but this would be the first all metal. That's pretty cool to be the first all metal Nintendo system ever made. I like it. I like that so far. Super Metal Switch 64. All right, so let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat so far. That's right. Life is Dank. Dave, I believe they'll have bigger size cartridges like the 3DS. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about the actual size of them, but I know the storage capacity will be 64 gigabytes from what was reported. No, I don't have a Discord. I am subscribed to Cortex. Yes, he's a good YouTuber. He's very focused on AMD. But yeah, we're still talking about this stuff here. So, what are you guys saying? What do you believe the specs will be? I think it could be 2 teraflops like these other new mobile chips are, and then adjusting that while docked, because a lot of these mobile chips are 2 teraflops without having to worry about being docked to a TV. So you could be seeing a baseline of 2 teraflops for this new more powerful Switch, which would allow it to get ports from these other systems at much lower resolutions. That's just where the technology is going, guys. Because the NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor is 5 years old now, like officially. Yeah, like January 2015 it came out. So it's January 2020. That chip is 5 years old, and mobile technology gets a new generation every single year. So you're looking at in mobile chip terms, a 5 generation old mobile chip that's in the Switch. So the amount of extra performance they could get from a brand new chip that's custom built for them, sky's the limit, guys. And you're looking at chips that can do that on a consumer level that are going to be released this year by these mobile chip providers. For Samsung is working on their deal with AMD for their own RDNA technology in their Galaxy phones. Apple's getting the Imaginations tech for 2 teraflops in their upcoming iPhones later, probably at the end of 2020. So these are all consumer electronics that are basically already been announced. They already are public information. So what do you think they could do custom that will be in a closed box for a console? As far as just focusing on games, it's really exciting for the possibilities that they could do. And if you guys watch my my video with Review Tech USA, there's no guarantees it's even NVIDIA anymore that's doing this because of the information we've discovered. NVIDIA is not even following Nintendo on their social media anymore. So who knows what it could be like we talked about earlier in 2019, since they're using all this operating system emulation. It points like the actual information actually points more to a custom-made chip that may not even be related to the Tegra processor. I'm just saying, just from what the information shows, it could be a completely custom-made variant that NVIDIA is making behind the scenes that they haven't actually had any consumer products about. There's nothing actually publicly, and there's no information from NVIDIA that they're doing anything though. So that's why you got to see the information and just wait and see for what Nintendo announces before assuming it's one chip or another chip. But I'm not saying it's one or the other, but it's going to be some type of custom chip that they're working on, something pretty special, most likely. And it's going to basically bridge the gap, not necessarily in a graphics terms or anything, but bridge the gap as far as Nintendo getting games going forward from all these developers. All these developers like Capcom, Square Enix, Platinum Games, they have all those developers have games that are already announced and released on other consoles that are not on Nintendo, that for sure Nintendo would love to have, like Final Fantasy 15 or Final Fantasy 7 Remake, which is not going to be exclusive to PlayStation 4 after 2021. And Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake that was just announced, Red Dead Redemption 2. Call of Duty, all these games that make hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue over all the platforms, they would love to have that on their console going forward into the next generation. Also, they would love to have other games like the Game of the Year, for example, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. They would love to have that. They would love to have Jedi Fallen Order, which was the number 2 selling game behind Call of Duty in November when it came out. Fantastic game. DN Megas Dan, thank you for the $5 super chat. Now that there's an Alienware UFO coming out probably in 2020, there will be direct competition with Switch for the hardcore gamer. Yeah, but that thing is extremely expensive, most likely. I don't think they announced the price though. I didn't. If someone knows the price of that device, let me know. But yeah, obviously that's way more powerful than the Switch is as well. Review Tech, we use. I have waited for 3 years. I need the Switch Pro already. Yeah, it's coming, man. I mean, it's coming. A lot of guys were doubting it last month, but like I showed you guys, there was no indication that it wasn't coming. You see what I'm saying? Like all the indications were pointing to that it was going to be coming sooner rather than later, meaning right now. So this new Switch is going to come this year. When do you think it'll be announced? Adam Bowser. when do I think it'll be announced? Okay, that's a good question. So that's one of the topics we're going to talk about. All these topics as far as AAA support, specs, and launch, and leaks and everything for this console, we're going to continue to talk about throughout this stream. So we'll go back and forth through them. So the launch of this console. So basically, the leak said that they were targeting for a end of quarter one production. And so that could be, so obviously that would be the end of March of this year. So that would mean that they want to release it by summertime, which is what's also what they said. So that would mean after E3. So probably which is kind of an odd time for a console launch. So as far as an announcement is concerned of this console, then you have a time frame of end of January all the way to, I would imagine, before E3, which would be May-ish time frame. So you have about 4 solid months there of a time frame where Nintendo could announce this console and then release it soon after. Now, I don't know. I'm a little bit doubtful if they would try to announce this at E3. And the reason why I say that is because most likely, if history repeats itself, and there's already rumors out there, but most likely Sony will be announcing all their details for PlayStation 5, all their secret details that Jim Ryan was hinting at. There's even more stuff that has been that they have secret for the PlayStation 5 platform that they're going to be announcing soon. So most likely that's going to be in February, which would be next month. So once that happens, everyone, most of all those, 106 million PlayStation 4 consoles sold, a lot of people are going to be putting their money down on the PlayStation 5. So it's going to be in Nintendo's best interest to announce this console somewhere around then, soon after, or even before. I'm not saying it's going to be in the next couple of weeks, but that's the time frame. DN Megasdan, thank you again for the $5 super chat. I'm just saying that UFO will have Steam games, so Nintendo has to step up with a Pro. Oh, well, there you go. That's one more reason to do it. So I agree with you, obviously, but I mean, that's a brand new piece of tech that hasn't. I think it's in the concept phases still, right? So I don't even think it has a release date, but yeah, it's only a prototype. I wouldn't really worry too much about that device. That's why I'm talking about PlayStation 5, since PlayStation 4 was extremely successful, and even as a singular home console, it outsold the Nintendo Switch. Even in the Nintendo Switch's launch year in 2017, overall, it outsold the Switch in 2017, and again in 2018, PS4 still outsold the Switch overall for the entire worldwide sales were concerned. 2019, it's going to be a different story because obviously Sony has been already announced their PlayStation 5 in early 2019. So, but yeah, the PlayStation 4 was extremely successful. So when PlayStation 5 announces their big, next generation console, all the details, all the secrets are out about it, all the everything's revealed. So they show actual games and first party games in February, most likely. Then it's going to be Nintendo's best interest to announce their console, to keep the eyes on them. We're not talking about graphics here. We're talking about announcing a product to keep the interest in Nintendo going forward into the next generation, basically. Everyone's going to be talking about other companies, putting their money down on other companies' products, and Nintendo doesn't want to be left out here. Entertainment vending. Do you think we'll ever see a portable system from Sony or Microsoft to be more direct, compete with the Switch? Yeah, that's always possible. The people are announcing new products all the time. Like nobody expected that product to be announced by Alienware. So one day you have something, one day you don't. Or one day you don't, and one day you do. So you always gotta be ready for whatever's gonna happen. So anything is possible. That's why it's really silly to just wait and see what other people are gonna do and sit back and relax and just let other companies just get money from gamers. That's really silly to do that, because if you're Nintendo, you already know what's going to happen. The PlayStation 5 is going to sell out in the holiday 2020. The Xbox Series X is probably going to sell pretty good, decently, not as good as what probably what they were hoping due to their current stance on exclusives. But you have competition there, basically, if you're Nintendo. So really, you have competition for games as far as where gamers spend their time playing these games. You have competition as far as products being released. You have competition from mobile devices, from all these mobile devices that are completely outclassing Nintendo's current technology by leaps and bounds, even in just consumer mobile, the consumer mobile space. Apple, Samsung, all these companies are having technology that is getting to the point where it's even beyond PlayStation 4 level. If they actually focus just on games, those companies, they could run PlayStation 4 ports on the go, basically. But mobile obviously is different. They have so many different types of games on mobile, and they want to make them compatible with the previous generations or whatever. It's a different kind of story. But as far as the actual tech is concerned, it's there. It's there for the taking. So it's really exciting to see where mobile tech has gone. Mobile tech is the most exciting thing going on in the industry. So Nintendo's working with outdated stuff here. So I want to see Nintendo use some of these new mobile chips coming out. That'll be really exciting. Wesick, thank you for the $5 super chat. What do you think idea of Nintendo may be collaborating with the NVIDIA Shield TV for cross-platform play and streamcasting? Is that a rumor? I don't think that's a rumor though, huh? I don't really think that's going to happen personally. Just because Furukawa just said in his interview with Nikkei that streaming he doesn't feel is really going to be a big priority for gaming right now. He said, I think maybe in 10 years, he actually said 10 years. 10 years is a long time. So yeah, that's 2030. We're 2020 now. So he said basically by 2030, streaming for gaming might be a thing. So Nintendo's fully committed to dedicated hardware. He said so himself right now. So dedicated hardware ain't going anywhere, guys. So I don't think they're going to be doing anything about really focusing too much on streaming. Some companies have done that. With Resident Evil 7 and Assassin's Creed on the Switch in Japan, to extremely limited results, and not very, wasn't very. Nobody really noticed it much over there. Obviously, nobody really bought it, so I don't see that really doing much, especially with all the lag that's involved, latency. It's really difficult to get streaming games onto a product like the Switch because it's portable. You go outside, you better have that connection, right? Or you better have some type of a 5G network or something, right? So something that doesn't lose connection. And Nintendo actually has been hiring people to work on modems. I believe I talked about that in another video I did late last year. They're working on LTE devices, basically. They're hiring people to work on those type of chips. And obviously we know the Switch doesn't have any type of LTE modem inside of it. So I'm not saying that the new Switch will have an LTE in it either, but that's just weird that they would be working on stuff like that. Maybe they have some type of subscription plan that you could have online connection at all times, anywhere you go, maybe. Which would help with your gaming online, not necessarily for streaming, but for gaming online. Since the reason why I say that is because Furukawa just said they're not really interested in doing that right now. Maybe not for 10 years. It's going to take off. Dedicated hardware is where it's at. What's up? Code 128 Gaming and News. All right, let's see. Let's go back up here. See. Zackety Cat Games. I might have a copy of Switch Pro device spec configuration as soon as next week if the Switch Pro is releasing this year. Wink, wink. Okay. Well, Fine. That's great. Go ahead and post it on Reddit or something, and get one of these rumor channels to talk about it. I probably won't be talking about rumors about the console, because they're going to announce it, so there's no reason to. And don't you guys enjoy what's been going on here on the channel anyway? I mean, it'd be kind of pointless to start talking about rumors about this console when we actually have better information to go on, like real information. It's been a lot funner for me to actually go through and get rewarded for researching for the information and then posting it in a video format. Because it's like, hey, look, this is real. This is not even speculation. This is real information that you can use for yourself, think for yourself, question it yourself. It's not even, here it is. It looks like Nintendo's going to be releasing a new console soon. And sure enough, we get reports they're starting production of that said console this quarter. So it's a lot more exciting. Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to do rumor videos sometimes, as far as when you hear, like, from other things. Maybe there's a huge rumor, something from a real credible source. Then I think it would be okay to do a video like that. The rumor there, I did do one rumor in 2019, just one, and it was correct. I posted the rumor that Super Mario Maker 2 was coming out to the Switch. And I posted that in my video one day before King Zell did, and it was correct, of course, because that Nintendo Direct was about to be happening. So there's some speculation of what games were going to be releasing, and that was one rumor I heard, and I said, "What the heck? This is one of the rumors," and it was correct. But other than that, there was no rumors besides that game in 2019 that I covered. I didn't get any credit for that rumor, of course, because King Zell posted that rumor the day after, and he got credit for it. I don't care. It's fine. Because my channel is not really about rumors much anymore. It's more about finding really cool information to share about these things coming out with you guys. So that's been really fun to do. Because you like to have something real to share, not just something that you think might happen or something I heard. Because, as you know, people who just do rumors all the time, they don't really go anywhere. There's some guys on Twitter that are, I'm not going to name any names, but there's some guys on Twitter that did that, and they're not going anywhere anymore. But, it is what it is. So yeah. 2 teraflops, I think, is extremely possible. It's already possible in mobile devices. You already have chips. AMD just showed their mobile processor that's 15 watts for laptops. The 4800U mobile chip processor, semi-custom. It's a Zen 2 processor, and they claim it's the most powerful laptop chip ever made at 15 watts. They didn't say, I don't think they said the specs, but obviously, if they're already doing 2 teraflops for other chips, Samsung, Microsoft, the Surface Pro X, their mobile chip, Imaginations Technologies, they're all hitting that 2 teraflops range. The Switch was considered premium technology for mobile when it was first released in 2017, and that was only 400 gigaflops of performance back then, downclocked, even docked. So mobile generations, it's 3 years later from that, 5 years later from the tech. I think 2 teraflops is easy for Nintendo to do at a cost. And I did a video on that too. We broke down the cost of what it could actually cost Nintendo to make. Chips don't cost that much. It's these cell phone providers overcharge a huge amount for their products. I believe it was the Galaxy S10. It was like $400 it cost Samsung to make the Galaxy S10, and they charge $1,000 for that phone. So, and it has cameras. It has a crazy, really good screen, and stuff that Nintendo would not be using in a gaming-only device. Again, go look at the channel, guys. There's all kinds of stuff there that proves all of these things are very possible for Nintendo to do. And now here we are. about ready for them to announce a product that could be doing some of those things. And then also you have the storage capacity, it will be increased. You have the speed of that possibly being something related to SSD drives, like the UFS technology or some of these other SSDs that they have in computers that can be miniaturized and everything. So it's really, really cool. Really cool stuff. All right, yeah, 64 teraflops. That'll happen. Yeah, it's crazy. Remember the Series X is 12 teraflops, so that's, yeah, we're not going to get to 60 in quite a long time. All right. Edward Noe? I don't think the Switch Pro is a good idea if it has Switch Pro exclusive games that would divide the player base. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Again, I've talked about this a million times on the channel. Maybe you've not seen that, but that's okay. So we don't know if it's even a Switch. We don't know what this console is, right? So I stopped calling it officially the Switch Pro back when the report came out last year, April 2019, from Nikkei, that Nintendo was working on a next generation Switch. Okay, they said next generation Switch. That was a full model upgrade from the current device. That was their report, and it also lined up with what Mochizuki reported the month before that Nintendo was working on an upgraded Switch that was an upgrade that wasn't a typical type of upgrade, and they compared it. They said that the console will not be as powerful in comparison to the PlayStation 4 Pro or the Xbox One X. So why are they comparing it to those way high, more spec consoles? Maybe because it's an upgrade that is bigger than what was expected, right? And then that falls in line with what Nikkei reported, that it was a next generation Switch that they're working on. Now, that being said, the media did not really latch on to that due to the translation of that Japanese article being kind of a little bit all over the place. So even though that was said, a lot of people dismissed that and said that, oh, that'll just come out in 2022 or something, right? And again, people have continually said 2022, don't even worry about releasing the Switch Pro, even though there was no Switch Pro reported on by any of these outlets. Wall Street Journal never called it a Switch Pro. Nikkei never called it a Switch Pro. No credible source called it a Switch Pro. Just Circun Toto, who quoted it as a Switch Pro. I mean, obviously, people don't know what to call this thing. So the easiest thing to call this upgraded Switch would be a Switch Pro, even though it's probably going to be called like New Switch or Switch X or Switch something else. It's extremely unlikely that it's going to just be called Pro, because that's basically just stealing from PlayStation 4 Pro, and it's a very easy cop-out name. Doesn't really sound like Nintendo to say Pro either. So Super Metal Switch, I'll take that one. But you see what I mean, though? None of the credible reports said it was a Switch Pro, and then they never even hinted that it was a Switch Pro in that form. So even though dividing the user base might be a concern, Nintendo already did that with the new 3DS. I just posted on Twitter the other day. Nintendo released 50 something games of the new 3DS. I'm looking on Twitter right now. New 3DS had exclusive games that you could argue would split the user base, right? So it was a more powerful system. New 3DS had Xenoblade Chronicles exclusive. These are all new 3DS exclusives. Xenoblade Chronicles, Binding of Isaac Rebirth, Fire Emblem Warriors, Wind Up Night 2, Runbow, Block Fort, Pixel Hunter, Lifespeed, Pinball, Hall of Fame, Dragon Fang, Minecraft, new Nintendo 3DS edition, and the entire SNES Virtual Console, to name a few. And that was over 20 different games. I don't recall anybody complaining that Nintendo was splitting their user base when they themselves allowed that to happen. They didn't put any rules or regulations saying developers had to release on both consoles. And the original 3DS, mind you, had a much larger install base by that time. It was released in 2011, and the new 3DS came out in 2015, 4 years after launch. And so why didn't they want to support and make these games run on the original Nintendo 3DS? Why? Well, I don't know, right? I guess they didn't care. Most of the games will still be going on to the original Nintendo 3DS, but Nintendo themselves and these other third-party developers wanted to take advantage of the extra horsepower of the new 3DS and make certain games only for that console. And none of these games were reported on as being flops either for the new 3DS. I think all these games were successful. So, and the interesting thing too about new 3DS, guys, that you may not realize is that since the 3DS is very hackable, they actually got the entire SNES Virtual Console to run on the original 3DS. So why didn't Nintendo allow that to happen in the first place if they could run it on the original 3DS? Well, maybe they want to sell more of the new 3DS, right? Because it's a new product. So if developers go to Nintendo or Nintendo goes to developers, vice versa, and says, hey, we have a new Switch coming. We really want to have Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Red Dead Redemption 2, these new games you got in development. And developers say, okay, great. Give us a console that can run them. You don't want to put them on our original Switch? Well, no, we can't. They'll probably say, yeah, we can, but it's going to take us like an extra year in development to port it to your console. So financially, it's not viable for us to do that as AAA developers or whatever, because we already are moving on to other consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. Our development teams don't have the time and resources to port to your console going forward into 2020, 2021, 2022. We're going to have a console that can run these ports if you want to get these games. That's just the way it is. A lot of these developers, no doubt, are saying that to Nintendo. They've been saying it to them since late 2018, when it was reported that Nintendo talked to developers behind closed doors at TGS, for example. So no doubt when they do that and behind closed doors, they're talking about future software releases. So certain games that are not going to be running on the original Switch, granted, you could try to downgrade them as much as you want until it finally gets to run like The Witcher 3. But is that what third parties really want to do? Well, probably not. They probably want an easier solution going forward, right? And then for ports that are going to be native working on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, the Switch is completely blown out of the water at that point. Like, they're going to be dealing with AI, advanced environments that are way beyond what the Switch could even hope to be in the same ballpark at. So PlayStation 4 was already hard enough. It already wasn't getting Red Dead Redemption 2 type of games on the Switch from PlayStation 4 anyway. So going forward to consoles that are substantially more powerful even than that, this new Switch makes absolute 100% perfect sense and logical sense and business sense for Nintendo to do, regardless if some of these games are exclusive to this new Switch, because this original Switch was not going to get those games in the first place. So it would be like Nintendo never even released this new Switch if they made all games be having to run on both platforms, because guess what? Third-party developers would simply just say, what? You're forcing us not to release games on this new Switch because you want us to make sure that they are running on the original Switch? So say, no, forget that. We're just not going to release our game. We can't have that stringent of rules as a developer. We're just going to not release the game on your platform, which would then in turn Nintendo still not getting these games either way if they enforce that type of rule, which they have never done before, mind you. Only Sony and Microsoft did that with their consoles. Nintendo has never, I repeat, never done that in the history of them as a company. They have never forced developers to support the previous iteration of a console when they upgraded to from an upgrade. Basically, the Game Boy Color had over 100 different exclusive games on it. Nintendo counted that as a singular platform, by the way. That was even though it was technically far superior than the original Game Boy, they still considered that a singular platform, the Game Boy platform, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Original. Hundreds or a couple hundred exclusive games or so for the Game Boy Color. DS had the DSi, over 500 exclusive games on the DSi, like in the DSi shop, for example. Various other exclusive games. New 3DS, like we just talked about, over 50 exclusive games. Nintendo has never forced, ever in their history, from an upgraded console, a developer to make sure you run your game on our old console. They've never done that. So I don't expect that to happen either with this Switch. If a developer only wants to release their game on this new Switch, then Nintendo is going to allow it because they've always done that in the past. Always. So I expect that to happen again. And these games make millions of dollars, guys. Millions. So if you're not going to get that game on the Switch in the first place, you're not going to get it, you know. So you people who are going to remain with you with the current iteration of the Switch, they're going to keep doing what they've been doing for the last 3 years, 2 years and 10 months. Just keep playing the same type of games you've been getting already. The current Switch will still be on the market. The new Switch will get these newer games. That's the whole point of releasing a new console. Is not just for the aesthetic of it. We're going to release a new console because it's cool. But there's always been a reason for it. The new 3DS exclusive games, DSi exclusive games, Game Boy Color exclusive games. So there's always a reason to release new hardware, and that's usually for the games. And, of course, for the benefits of improving the platform going forward to giving it a longer life. The new 3DS came out in 2015. We're in 2020 now. So new 3DS had a long life. It really pushed the life of the 3DS brand a lot longer than, I guess, 4 more years, really, is what it was. Because I think that it's not discontinued, of course, yet. But 2019 was kind of it, for the 3DS. They're pretty much done with that console now in 2020. So definitely new hardware brings new surprises, new excitement, and more money for Nintendo. So you can count on there going to be exclusive AAA third-party games on this new Switch. Absolutely, you can count on it. So this is all being recorded, so we'll come back to this later in 2020, obviously. It's pretty exciting. Okay, people are arguing in the chat probably about price. Yeah, so like I said, guys, people have made assumptions that don't know yet. You got to wait and see what Nintendo announces first before assuming that $399 is too expensive. Because what if it's, like I said, an upgrade that's worth it, right? If it's coming out 3 years after the launch of the Switch, it's got to be something that's worth it then, right? Because a lot of people just purchase a Switch for $300 at the holiday. So signs are pointing to this to be an upgrade that's worth it. You have the reports, not even from me here. I mean, you have reports talking about a full next generation model upgrade, an upgrade that's not expected. Maybe that will surprise you. From Wall Street Journal, you have sharp IGZO displays, fantastic quality screens. You have magnesium alloy body, which is fantastic, is awesome. You can't ask for anything more than that. I mean, that's not even with knowing the specs for sure, but just the quality of the materials, that is just fantastic. I've never even imagined having I don't know about you, I never even thought or considered having a Nintendo handheld be actually made out of magnesium alloy. Like, think about that, guys. That is awesome. Like, seriously, that's awesome. You got to be excited for that. So let's see what you guys are saying here. 720p handheld still looks good enough for me. TV play, on the other hand. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the big issue with the current Switch, right? Is that you have an issue where you have a device that was designed for the NVIDIA Shield tablet, and it's really good for playing. It was really good back then for playing Xbox 360 games, and lo and behold, what is the Switch really good at playing right now? Xbox 360 ports. You see a lot of remasters. Obviously, it's a little bit more, has more juice, and the API is better. to run those Xbox 360 ports at 1080p and better frame rates. So in some cases, not, like Saints Row the Third, bad. But there are examples of it being improved, but just not improved enough to actually get all the ports from PlayStation 4. So the actual technology is actually more in line with a Wii U Plus, Xbox 360 Plus type of thing, better resolution for those type of games. But when you get into the current generation of games of PlayStation 4, that's where it gets really difficult for the system to do much. You got to have some really enclosed type of games like Doom 2016, and then you have to have certain games that are drastically downgraded, and remade, some of their assets remade from scratch, like The Witcher 3, which was amazing. They even attempted that game in the first place, but they did it because Nintendo wanted that game on their console. And it's a great sign of things to come. And just think about it when they have even easier games to port over. They don't have to go through all that work. Lucas Engma, thank you for the $5 super chat. If that's dollar, I don't know whether it's R. But the problem with developing exclusive games for the new model is that it will segregate the console audience into two parts. Yeah, I was just talking about that. I was just talking about that a second ago. Thank you again, Lucas. Another 5. Apart from having to ignore the old model that already has a larger install base, to invest in one that doesn't have one. Yeah, I know. Like I said, I know that's a concern, but wait for them to show the console first, and also look at Nintendo's history. They've done this every single time they've upgraded their console. They've allowed exclusive games. So I don't see it I don't see it changing anything. All it's going to do is actually increase sales for their new console that's upgraded because it has exclusive games. You could look at it both ways. It's because those users with the current Switch are not going to get those games anyway. Some of the games might port over, but say you get Red Dead Redemption 2 on the original Switch and this new Switch, right? But the original Switch version of Red Dead Redemption 2 runs at 15 frames per second and 480p while docked. Something really, we're just giving an example. And then the new Switch runs the game at 1080p, 30 frames per second. Chances are, even with a smaller install base, the new Switch will get more sales because guess what? The game looks and runs better on the new Switch, which will then in turn lead to other developers saying, you know what? We'll just put the games on the new Switch. They're not going to buy it anyway on the original Switch because it looks like garbage. So there's a give and take there, right? And obviously there's a transition. Not all AAA third party games are going to would be exclusive anyway to this new Switch. So we're talking about certain key games, especially like the Resident Evil 2 remake. We're talking about the big games, right? So no one's going to complain, in my opinion, that the new Switch will get those games because it's the developer's choice. So developer, if they want to put those games on that console, they will because they want the money from those sales. If Nintendo says you cannot do that without putting it on the original Switch, they're just going to say, okay, forget it. We're not going to release our game on your console. So what's the business choice? Do you get that game or you not get that game? You're Nintendo. What do you say? Oh, we don't want your game on our console. No, you're going to get the game because you want the money. As simple as that. You got to start somewhere, guys. You can't just leave it there and refuse to get huge games on your platform, and especially when you've already proven that you want those games in the past from the new 3DS. Over 50 exclusive games. Some of them aren't capable, they say, to run on the original 3DS, even though I believe Xenoblade, I think they hacked it and got it to run on the original 3DS. It wasn't very impressive, but they were able to get it to run on the original 3DS, but they didn't want it to because it wasn't, it just didn't look good, I guess, and it didn't run well. So think about it. You got a new console generation coming up. PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X. All the momentum is going to be, and all the eyes are going to be on them. What do you got over here as Nintendo? Nothing? No. You're going to have a console that is going to be releasing to keep the excitement on your end too. And you're going to want to get games going forward at the same time. So guess what? You can kill two birds with one stone, basically. Release an upgrade that's good enough to get ports going forward, and increase your user base, expand your audience, and make it clear to people that this is a premium console, $399, and wow, look at what you're getting. You're getting sharp IGZO displays. You're getting a magnesium alloy body of the console. You're getting improvements all around with graphics. The current games will be backwards compatible, run better on the new Switch. Doom Eternal, which is already confirmed coming to the Switch, that will most likely run at 60 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second on the old model. There has never, ever, ever been not one single console in Nintendo's history that they've upgraded from that has sold worse, or that has sold bad. There has never been an upgrade that Nintendo's released that's actually sold poorly. So I hear the concern, but I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I don't see anybody caring, honestly. I see them simply just upgrading to the new Switch. 3 years is okay. For a mobile device, that's fine. 3 years is fine. The mobile technology has advanced to the point where it's silly for them not to upgrade right now because it's 5 years old already. It's actually holding them back from getting games by not upgrading. So upgrade now and get more games and get more money, expand your audience, and also keep eyes on your console and your platform. Keep your fans excited, and you will have like success. All right, Adam Bowser, thank you for the $2. What game will launch with it? Odyssey 2, Breath of the Wild 2. How about Metroid Prime Trilogy? Yeah, I mean, you just said Odyssey 2. That hasn't been announced yet, right? But neither has Metroid Prime Trilogy. So why don't we get Metroid Prime Trilogy on this new Switch and build up some excitement for that? And that's a nice way to showcase your improvements of your console too. Show a game fans have been dying to get, and then show like some drastic improvements that you made with this new console at the same time. Nintendo did that with Majora's Mask 3D. They actually released a bundle with that game for the new 3DS with Majora's Mask, and they showed improvements in the graphics on that for its version of Majora's Mask. Even though it could run on the original 3DS, it was improved for the new 3DS. So why not release Metroid Prime Trilogy, get the ball rolling with that in 2020, and then you saw my Metroid Prime 4 video. That game is moving fast in development. It could be released at the end of 2021 at this point. They got the Crysis guy on there, one of the lead guys from Crysis working on that game for the art direction. He worked on Crysis 2, Crysis 3, Killzone 2 and 3, Rise, Son of Rome. Some extremely high quality, talented guys are joining up back with Retro Studios to work on Metroid Prime 4. I think it's going to be ready by holiday 2021. So Nintendo, it was rumored that they were going to be, again, releasing Prime Trilogy way back at the end of 2018. Never happened. But during that time, we've been seeing information build up, and rumored and reported that they were working on a new, more powerful Switch at the same time as these rumors of Metroid Prime Trilogy. So that would be an absolutely perfect game for them to show off the beautiful art style of that game, of those three games, with enhancements to the graphics, and just make fans so happy at the same time. I guarantee you, fans would be knocking on the door day one with their money. Give me that, right away, right? So I think it would be a perfect move to do that. Yeah, Bayonetta 3, that's another one. Again, we haven't seen that. That game has actually been announced. We haven't seen anything for it. But that wouldn't be a game from Nintendo that we want to launch your system on. That would be something you would want to put out later on, obviously, to keep the sales going. Something like that. That would be awesome, though, right? Metroid Prime Trilogy. We all want it. Everyone has been asking for it. That is the perfect game. I think you could get that the Metroid Prime name out there at the same time as releasing a new piece of hardware. How do you sell Metroid Prime 4 without releasing Metroid Prime Trilogy? You can't do that. Right? That would be a really dumb move to do if you're Nintendo. See, they're gonna release Metroid Prime Trilogy. So the best way to drive up, build up the anticipation and hype for Metroid Prime 4 is release Metroid Prime Trilogy in a way that is extremely impressive for fans. So I think that could happen. I'm not saying it will, but I think that could happen in conjunction with announcing this new Switch. Oh, wow, 400 viewers. Okay, thanks. I'm not actually looking at that. All right, what are you guys saying in the chat? Let's see, I started at 3:30. Okay, yeah, we're still going. Good stuff. Yeah, so like I was talking about before, that leak by Digitimes was said a lot more than what people realized due to that fact that what they saw was something different, different size in production that gave it away to them that basically this is an improved CPU. When you can't say that, obviously, because you can't say it's a CPU because you can't see the CPU. The whole chip is one singular chip. But by knowing the socket size, basically the measurements of it, and they could tell this is better. That rules out Tegra X1 and Tegra X1 Plus. And as far as the Parker chip is concerned, the NVIDIA is not even using that chip hardly anything anyway. So, and in conjunction with that, I don't think it's the Parker chip either. The reason for that is because it's basically the same. It's 16 nanometers versus 20 nanometers, but it's basically the same architecture as the X1 processor, just a little bit modified. Nintendo wouldn't be working so hard to get an operating system running in virtualization and emulation and then debugging this entire console like we proved last year if it was just the Parker chip. The Parker chip could just run the Switch OS just as is because it's the same basic chip. So I don't think it's the Parker chip, and it's not the X1 processor, and it's not the X1 Plus processor. Looks like this is a custom-built chip. Looks like this is a very custom-made console in general, like physically, the physical makeup of it. It's exciting. So I'm really excited to see what is powering it also. And if it was just the Parker chip, it would be extremely unimpressive in 2020 when you got consoles, you got mobile devices, phones, tablets that are running, at 2 teraflops. The Parker chip would be like 500, 600 gigaflops, way underpowered. It would be no point to release a console like that. So I'm really excited to see where Nintendo goes with it, because there's a huge gap of improvement that they have there. They can work with. The technology's all there. Just use it, put it in there, and we'll buy it. Samey 241. I'd pay $500 to $600 for the right type of Switch. Yeah, us the enthusiasts, we would buy. I would spend $500 to $600, sure, but the average consumer wouldn't spend that much. Obviously, they're $399 is I think the limit from what Nintendo could charge. When you get into like $499, it's just not going to happen. Nintendo has to advertise that it is a substantial enough upgrade for them to warrant releasing it at $399 in 2020, 3 years after the Switch launches. After the Switch launched in 2017, so for them to warrant that, they got to sell that to you, right? So they're going to say, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. It's all, way better than the last model. Go ahead and upgrade to this one. And they'll probably have some kind of trade-in deal at GameStop. They will. That's just how it goes. But they have to warrant the actual existence of this console with something, right? So to warrant the existence of the console, you need to prove it in what you show it can do. So we already know the screen's going to be amazing. We already know the body of it The actual design of it's going to be amazing. We know that. So what can the graphics do? What can the games do? How much better does Breath of the Wild run on this new Switch? Does it run at 60 FPS instead of 30? Or are there no more frame rate problems? Are the graphics improved? Is it running at 1080p 60 instead of 900p? Is there upscaling to 4K? Is Super Mario Odyssey running at higher resolutions and frame rate? Is Doom running at 60 frames per second 1080p now instead of 720p 30? You see, if you show enough of an upgrade to fans, they will go ahead and buy it. But as far as Nintendo's concerned, they have a choice to make, right? And the choice, I guess, has been made because they're entering in production. So they made their choice. You have 3 consoles that are going to be released, at least, maybe more. There could be 4 or 5 variants. You know what I mean? Like you could have 2 PlayStation 5s, 2 Xboxes. You could have even 2 of these new Switches also. Maybe there's different variants of it. Who knows? Different price SKUs. But Nintendo has made the choice to release an upgrade to their Switch line in 2020. Why did they do that? Well, what do you think? What do you think's going on around them? We just talked about everything going on around them, especially in the mobile space, right? So you have all kinds of these mobile chips being released at the same time and upgraded at the same time, way more powerful than the Switch. All these things, the next generation coming out in 2020. So it looks like, Nintendo's kind of being surrounded there, right? What are you doing? What are you doing, Nintendo? Give us something too. Basically, is the mindset. You can see it. Furukawa's words about technology. There was multiple different translations to that interview he had, and multiple different parts. Him talking about technology. I just covered one part of it, but he basically said he wanted to dispel any rumors or concern that Nintendo wasn't looking at new technology, because he said in that interview that they are, and they're aware of it, and they want to use it. So the timing of him saying that is right in line with them releasing a new console, to be honest with you. So Nintendo has made the choice to go ahead and upgrade their Switch platform in 2020, and it's basically when everyone else is doing it. And like I said, I believe last month in my last live stream, that they always do it. Whenever there's a new console generation that launches, they always release a new console also. James Jarvis, thank you for the $5 super chat. Just now joining. If Nintendo comes out with a more powerful chip and future next-gen ports are possible, how will Nintendo keep their non-Switch Pro user base happy? Well, I mean, first-party games, right? Most first-party games will probably be still running, right, on that. So we'll have to wait and see. But are you like I said, current Switch owners are not getting those games anyway. You're not getting those games, guys. You're not getting AAA third-party ports for the most part on the current Switch. If you are, let me know in the chat. They're not. You're getting some cherry-picked AAA games, but very, very little. Do you want me to list all the games that the Switch didn't get in 2019? Just off the top of my head. There's no Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which was the game of the year. There was no Jedi Fallen Order, which was only second best-selling to Call of Duty. There was no Call of Duty in the first place. There was no Resident Evil 2 remake. There was no even Code Vein on the Switch. There was no Devil May Cry 5. There's no other games either. That certain games like smaller releases like Ace Combat. There was none of that. Even the smaller releases are on the Switch like that either. So there's been a ton of games missing that can make Nintendo millions of dollars on their platform. The Switch is not going to get those games either way. So as Nintendo, you got to make a choice. Do you want to get those games or not? All right. So since you're not going to get those games anyway, how are you going to keep those original Switch users happy? Is your question? Well, the answer is just keep doing what you're doing right now. If those users are already happy with their Switch without getting those AAA third-party ports, if you are already happy with your Switch 100% without getting anything from AAA, then maybe this new Switch isn't for you. You'll be happy getting indie games and first-party games and a couple, AAA games here and there. But guess what? Everyone else, the entire industry, is moving on. They're moving on to the next generation, including mobile devices. So whether you either stay or you go, or, Nintendo it's up to Nintendo to make you happy. So if you're happy, then you got nothing to worry about then. You'll keep playing the same games you're already playing. You'll keep not getting the same AAA ports on your current Switch by not buying the new Switch. I don't see a downside to it, basically. And they proved that to you with the new 3DS by having all those exclusives on the new 3DS. Nobody complained. They just bought the new 3DS. Oh, you can only play that in the new 3DS? Okay, I'll buy that. I wanted to upgrade my 3DS anyway. It's a bigger screen. It's a better screen. Remember, the new 3DS also had a better screen. It had better 3D. It wasn't just the games, guys. It was actually a better console at both specs, and the screen was better in the new 3DS. Oh, I'll just buy that. Okay, cool. All right, Adam Bowser, thank you for the $5 super chat. Will Switch Pro get updated Joy-Cons or be thinner? I expect smaller bezel. Yeah, also new dock. Yeah, I agree. Can the current dock overclock a Switch Pro to upscale 4K? No, the current dock cannot do that. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Overclock. No, the dock doesn't overclock anything. Remember, guys, the dock just powers the console so you can connect it, keep it in there so it goes to the TV. The actual console itself overclocks. So you're plugging it in, so the console itself, the physical console overclocks, which is why it gets hot, which is why they need the magnesium alloy so they can overclock more so and get even better performance in your TV. Ah, wow. So the dock will not overclock the Switch. The console overclocks. That's why they need to have this new Switch, basically, so they can give even better performance while docked. They don't have to worry about overheating because the magnesium alloy will keep it cool. That's a very good idea by Nintendo. Excellent idea. You also, what else did you say? Joy-Cons? Yeah. I was going to talk about that, actually. I did a video. That's a whole nother part of it, too. Virtual reality, right? Joy-Cons, virtual reality. We did a video on that back in September, I believe, of 2019. Let me show you this picture here. See that? So that is the thumbnail I used for that video. New Switch patent analysis. 2 new IR sensors discovered. This was actually news that nobody covered, of course, but some people covered, yes, but not the IR sensor part. But it was basically confirmed in the patent that they have 2 new IR sensors in these 2 new Joy-Cons that they patented. Okay? And the diagrams showed that the 2 Joy-Cons could actually bend or adjust the top part of it for more comfort. And they actually have a locking mechanism there. And IR sensors, they said, were changed ever so slightly. And on top of that, if you see that tablet-looking device, that is basically, it looks like a Switch with smaller bezels and 2 new Joy-Cons. And if you look at the Switch on the bottom left there in the picture, it's a regular Switch with regular size bezels. Now, I understand this is just a patent picture, but it's just kind of weird and interesting that they actually would have a bezel-less type of Switch that they're connecting 2 brand new Joy-Cons with in this patent that they released and made public back in September of 2019. Or it may have been August 2019, one of those time frames. Now, combine that with Nintendo using sharp IGZO displays, higher refresh rates, higher resolutions, and them flirting with virtual reality. What do those controllers look like to you? They look very similar to what they use in virtual reality, don't they? So this console might have virtual reality capability as far as them doing it better. You know what I mean? Like the actual full resolution of this console could be 1440p as far as the actual screen resolution pixels are concerned. So they could do 720p 60 frames per second in each eye if you do virtual reality in it as an option going forward. That is just speculation on my part. However, the patent does support that type of speculation here. Okay? Now, sharp pixel displays allow for higher refresh rates. You could theoretically get 90 hertz to 120 hertz in a display like that. So you got higher resolution, higher refresh rate, Joy-Cons that look like virtual reality type of controllers that adjust, and there you go. And then you have Nintendo using virtual reality recently and things like Labo and stuff like that. Very much experimental stuff, right? Labo virtual reality, nobody really cared too much, but it's very interesting. Hey, Yellow Kazoo, thanks for coming. Yeah, hit the like button, guys, if you're watching. Hit that like button if you're enjoying this, please. So, isn't this cool though, guys? I mean, you could see like there's lots of options here going forward. Oh, and so really, it's something that you got to think about, like virtual reality and everything, and something Nintendo could use, and also AR as well, right? They talked about AR with Furukawa recently. Pokemon Go is very AR heavy type of game. There's so many cool things they can be doing here with this new Switch. If they have a camera on it too, the 3DS I believe it had like 3 cameras on it, at least 2. The new 3DS. So it's really interesting the things they could do with this new Switch. They could be doing far more than just making it more powerful. They could be adding functionalities that you didn't even think about. This is Nintendo we're talking about here. So the possibilities are endless, and the evidence has been building and building and building. We might be getting new Joy-Cons like we talked about here. So it's really cool, guys. I don't see a downside to releasing an upgraded Switch in 2020. So the whole segregate the market thing, Nintendo doesn't care about that, obviously. They've already done it before and nobody cared. And people just continued buying their products and upgrading their consoles. You don't know what the Switch is going to be called. It could be called something else. You never know. But they could be including this Switch in their hardware numbers for the original Switch. As long as Nintendo's making money, I don't think they care. So if they're including the overall user base, install base of the Switch, quote unquote Switch user base platform with this new Switch, and the new Switch gets AAA third-party ports and the original Switch doesn't, and Nintendo just includes it in their install base overall numbers, they don't care. They'll be saying, hey, we sold 125 million Switch in our generation. That's all that matters to them, you see? So what matters to the gamers is to continue being excited and continue getting some new things to excite your platform and excite your fans to play them on your platform. So I've heard all the arguments against it, but it's like, why would you want to argue for not getting a more powerful Switch? Just because you don't want to be left behind as a current Switch owner, even though you weren't going to get those games anyway. You see what I mean? I don't get it. I don't get that logic. You see? No. Don't make it too powerful. No. It can't be too powerful, because if it's too powerful, it won't run games on the original Switch. I mean, come on. Think about that. Don't make it too powerful, guys. Man. That's the kind of things that I've seen people say. It's just like, are you serious? Don't make it too powerful? Dumb. In my opinion. Whatever, Hey. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. That's right, Bluetooth. Wesick said that. They did do hiring for Bluetooth support as well, so there could be a lot of stuff. DL, you've been here since it started. Thanks for coming, man. Okay, let me go up and see what you guys have been saying. Switch Plus. one thing we don't want it to be called is Switch U, right? No Switch U. You guys don't want Switch U? Super Switch, that's a big one, right? People like Super Switch. Super Switch is a popular name. I'll take Super Switch. Super Metal Switch. Super Switches would be fun. Switch X is just standard, like standard. Here's your upgraded version, Switch X. Or Switch S sounds too much like a phone. So I wouldn't really like a Switch S, like Snake. Super Switch sounds good. Like you know what you're getting, right? You're getting a Super Switch. Switch X sounds like an upgraded Switch. So, there's all kinds of names they could go with. Switch XL. Yellow Kazoo says Switch Nuvox. Nuvox? Okay, cool. Switch NX. That's interesting. NX, though, when you think about it, it's just short for next. So they could actually call it Switch NX. You never know. Switch Ultra. But it has you in there, man. It has you. Don't want no you. Switch 64. Yeah. Nuvo. Oh, okay. I see what you're... Okay. Yellow Kazoo. Thanks for coming by the way. Everyone go subscribe to Yellow Kazoo. She has a great channel. She does gameplay videos, streaming. She's a great person. Very nice person. Go ahead and subscribe to Yellow Kazoo. Just click on her name there and go subscribe to her channel. Switch 2. Keep it simple like phones. See, that's another thing that I don't think they will do. I don't think they will call it a Switch 2 because that will actually send I think the wrong message that Nintendo wants. I think Nintendo wants to continue selling the original Switch, even if the actual specs of this new Switch are akin to it being like a Switch 2. I don't think they'll call it a Switch 2 because they want to make it more of a platform type of thing. So that they're, even if the specs are too powerful, then I don't think they'll call it a Switch 2. I think they'll call it like a Switch X. Like, for example, like Xbox One X is actually like a next generation console compared to the Xbox One, but it's still in the same family of systems. Granted, that's another story with Microsoft, but naming is a big thing that could separate it in a negative way that Nintendo doesn't want. And I think they want to keep it in the same line of Switch families, even if it plays exclusive games like the new 3DS did. Switch Big, Switch Evolution, Switch 4K, Switch Premium, Super Switch Entertainment System. Yeah. SSES. Yeah. SES. Switch Prime, Switch Advance, Nintendo Switch Extreme, Switch Heavy, Switch Max, Switch Neo, Switch VR. You guys are great. I'm not going to read that one, though. Yeah, SES, that really rolls off the tongue. Switch Plus, Switched. How about the Bait and Switch? Super Bait and Switch. You just bought the Switch, guys? Guess what? Here's the Bait and Switch. Switch X, Switch It Up, Fancy Switch, Switch Magnet, Switch Plus Ultra. You guys are great. Keep it coming. Well, okay, yeah, great names, guys. I like the Bait and Switch though. No, that's just gonna be funny. B8 and Switch. There you go. Switch B and Switch B8 and N. Yeah, there. B8 Bait and Switch. Ultra Switch. All right, that's good for the names for now. I think we got it covered, guys. It's gonna be one of those, right? It's got to be one of those names. If they call it Switch Wii, then I think we'll have to give up as gamers here, or really give Nintendo a hard time. Hopefully, if they call it some kind of Switch Wii thing, they're just joking. Flip the Switch, yeah. Nintendo's been kind of enamored with the deluxe name. So they may even call it Switch Deluxe, which I think is pretty weak name, but they may call it Switch Deluxe. You never know. Personally, I think my top picks would be Super Switch or something simple like Switch X. Just make it simple, yeah, and make the X look all cool or something, and and have like 4K on the box, like 4K support or what have you. 4K upscaling for your games. The games are run at 1080p, what have things like that. All right, Yellow Kazoo. I mean, the Switch Lite, if you think about it, it went DS Lite, but there's Wii U. So what's the next logical progression? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. No U's though. No U. Waka91, print 4K on the chip like Microsoft. Oh yeah, they did that on the Xbox One X, and they put 8K on the new one. They just showed that chip. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So, any questions? You guys have any more questions? We've been going for an hour and 40 minutes so far. Did we cover everything? I'm trying to think. Is there anything I missed that has been not covered yet? Like I said, I think its new Switch could be 2 teraflops, because of what the technology has progressed in mobile technology. I think it could be 2 teraflops. I think it would be easy too, not a problem. Just a matter of them putting the technology in this console to use. Since it's a home console, also. That would make sense to get ports, and then of course you could overclock this new Switch to the point where you could actually have a much greater resolution on your TV than it would in the current Switch, due to that magnesium alloy body, keeping the heat and keeping the internals cool. I'm not saying way overclock it, or to the point where it's just insane, but overclocked enough where it would be the resolution would be something that looks good on your TV at all times. Basically, none of this 480p stuff on your TV, and some of these games drop down really low and really blurry. Handheld performance is another story. 720p on the go, nobody has a problem with that. But when you put it on your TV, if it's supposed to be a home console, this is Nintendo's basically opportunity here, and they're proving it with what they're making with a magnesium alloy, that they actually have the chance here to actually make it something that can be docked and overclocked to the point where you don't have to worry about it overheating or being too hot. So that's really cool. Really, really cool. And like we said, virtual reality, screen resolution, refresh rate, AR, so it might have a camera. What else? AAA third-party support. Red Dead Redemption 2 was listed on that Spanish retailer site. Never know. It might be a placeholder for when they announce it for this new Switch. No idea if that game would even run at all on the original Switch, but if it did, and they release it on both the original Switch and this new Switch, which one would you buy it for anyway? Would you buy the crappy looking one that runs really bad, or would you buy the one for the new Switch? So it's like, either way, you're going to just buy it on the new Switch, even if the original Switch gets it, because the disparity that it's going to be on the original Switch might just be too much. It may just look too ugly. Well, we had Hyrule Warriors on the original 3DS, and new 3DS looks way better on the new 3DS. It was almost like an exclusive on the new 3DS, because it looked so much better than the original 3DS. The original 3DS version looked terrible. It ran at really low resolution, had really slow frame rate, had less NPCs on screen. And on the new 3DS version, it was basically the same NPC count as the Wii U game, just lower resolution and downgraded graphics, and it ran way better. So So yeah, there's so many cool things that Nintendo could be doing here with this console. All right, Dave the Impaler. What if the Switch Pro is not portable? That way, Nintendo will keep all 3 Switch models relevant. Well, but we already know it is basically from the reports, right? An alloy, magnesium alloy body and exo display. So, but that's not to say they won't release a variant of this new version of a Switch that is not portable. That's not to say that they might. Maybe that exo screen is pretty expensive, right? So it drives the cost up, makes it $400. Maybe in the future they release a non-portable variant that is exactly the same chip and it just plugs into your TV for like $100 less. I don't know. You have to wait and see. But that would actually be supplemental to their main console, the Nintendo Switch platform. So like people argue that they would never do a home console again. But the thing is, if it's supplemental and they're not relying on it, then yeah, they would. So like if they release a home console variant of the Switch, this new Switch, same exact chipset, same motherboard, just putting in a different case and just say, hey, this is like a mini console or something. They could do that no problem and just charge less for it and not be worried about its sales because it's supplemental. It's not their main focus. Then they could do it. So that'd be really cool. I know a lot of people maybe would purchase that as maybe an entry-level console to next gen or something when the PlayStation 5 comes out. Buy something like that. That's cheaper. But like I said, we have to wait and see what they do. But yeah, it would be a smart move actually for Nintendo to further expand their user base, because maybe parents would buy that console for certain kids because they're worried that they don't want to destroy that expensive screen. And as we know, as sad as times are, a lot of parents use video game consoles to babysit their children. So they would put them in front of the TV, plug in their whatever Switch home console that doesn't actually have a screen they could scratch and destroy, and just babysit them that way. That's a possibility. As long as it's not something that would damage Nintendo, I would definitely see them doing something like that. If they make their home console the primary source of all their, like we're putting everything into this home console, then yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. But if it's supplementary and cheaper as an option, I think that would be a good move business wise for Nintendo. Oh, your Ravens game is starting? Yeah, man. Thanks for coming by. I know it's a football day for a lot of people. So I do appreciate you guys stopping by and joining and having fun here. I do think that Call of Duty will be coming. I think that would be one of the games that Nintendo would want to get, because it comes out every single year. It's a multi-million-dollar seller. And it's something that fans have been asking for. You see tweets about it all the time. Fans begging and begging and begging, please, Activision, bring Call of Duty to the Switch. It never happens. So that would be one game. Think about the huge games that they could get. Tell me what games you would like them to get in the chat, as far as AAA games that you wish the Switch had. I already know the games I want. I would like to have Sekiro, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Devil May Cry 5, one of the big Final Fantasy games like 15 maybe, Final Fantasy 7, Red Dead Redemption 2. I would like to have all those games on there, yeah, as an option. I think it's something that would make them a lot of money. Oh yeah, Madden, right? I don't even play Madden, but a lot of people do play Madden. Cyberpunk 2077, definitely. That's it. You tell me you would not buy that on this new system if it came out around that time, right? So that game comes out in April. So, it's right there for the picking. Yeah, Yellow Kazoo. I know a lot of people only care about Nintendo exclusives. I understand that, but hey, big AAA games do help. And they do help the business succeed as well. The biggest sellers of 2019 were AAA games. So the biggest selling game was Call of Duty and what was it? Call of Duty, I think, was the biggest selling game of 2019. But yeah, these other games do sell millions and millions of copies as well. Resident Evil 2 Remake sold, I believe, 5 million already. And Jedi Fallen Order sold millions and millions also. It's the most successful Star Wars game since Battlefront 1 in 2015. And that was single player with no microtransactions. So Madden sells millions and millions and millions. And yeah, so there's so much money to be made that a good Pokemon game, yeah. Maybe you'll get it when you buy all the DLC, guys. Woo! Yeah, I'm not big on Pokemon, guys. So I don't care either way about that. But some people are upset, some people are, I don't know, happy about it, I guess. Whatever. But one point to make clear is that, yet again, upgraded consoles that are released by Nintendo from a current line of consoles have never in the history of Nintendo been a failure. Never. They've always been successful and they've always sold well. And I don't foresee there being any difference here either. I think this will also sell very well for Nintendo. And it's releasing at the same time with these other consoles. So there's a lot there that can be said for what this console could be doing as far as what it's getting for games. Like we talked about, it hasn't even caught up with the PlayStation 4 yet with getting all the current games in the first place. So there's a gap there, and a lot of technology that has been done since 2015 to 2020. All right, are we back? Let me know how it is, guys. Oh, yeah, super laggy day of 64. I know, I hate that. I don't like lag. Don't like it. Okay, I was saying something. What was I saying? Darn it, I don't like that. Don't like losing my train of thought. Someone remind me what I was talking about. Let's see. Let me see if you got any questions here besides lag. Oh yeah, games you want on the system. Yeah, okay. They yanked my internet out. I didn't pay my bill. No. Anyway, yeah, Nintendo. Yeah, you're right. They would never go over $399. I think that's the most they're gonna charge. That's right. Thank you. Shout out to NerdLabs001. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, Nintendo consoles that they've upgraded, they have never sold poorly, okay? So that's the key here. So you guys, people worried about them having problems convincing people to upgrade, it's not going to happen. They're going to upgrade big time. So people are going to see the new body of the console. They're going to see the new screen. They're going to see the games looking better. They're going to see AAA third-party support on certain big titles. People are going to buy it. So I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, well, like I said, we got to wait and see what they're showing, right? $399 I don't think is expensive at all for what you could potentially be getting. People are spending $1,000 on Galaxy phones because it's an all-inclusive, deal. It does everything. Multiple different cameras, super premium screens, very big, what have you. So a premium gaming device that's portable and plug into your TV by Nintendo for $399, I guarantee you Nintendo will make it worth your while to purchase it. Definitely. So, yeah, PS5 and Xbox Series X, but they won't be, their home consoles won't be portable, will they? As long as it plays the same games, it's gonna be selling really well for Nintendo. As long as the games don't look blurry, Vaseline all over your screen, which I don't think it will on this new Switch, and it can play those games at a reasonable frame rate, I don't think this new Switch will have a problem. You see? They're not competing with these consoles as far as native 4K, 120 frames per second, and 8K resolutions. They're not doing that. All they want to do is get games, and to continue to get those games that they've been getting, just starting to get on the current Switch, like The Witcher 3, the upcoming Doom Eternal, the Outer Worlds, things like that. But this very cherry-pick stuff. Well, so if they want to even continue to get even cherry-pick stuff, they're still going to have to release a new console either way. So it looks like it's coming this year. Johnny Hernandez. But yeah, we talked about that. We pretty much know already it's not just a console because of the upgraded of the screen reports with Sharp being with Nintendo, and for the body of the console being magnesium alloy. If it was just a regular home console, they wouldn't have to make it a metal magnesium alloy. It would just be plastic with a black finish, just like anything else. So it's one of those things. I'm pretty sure we know. That it's another portable device. John Buna, we talked about the leaks from Digitimes that we're talking about. The leaks from them is from their supply chain, and I went into further discussion about these leaks earlier in this live stream, so you can go back and rewind and watch that. But there was more to it than just better CPU. The problem with how websites reported that information was that they treated it like it was a rumor report from somebody who knew like specs or something of the system, but that wasn't what it was. It was a report about the actual physical production of the console itself. So with that report, they said they knew it had a better CPU and it was made out of a magnesium alloy body. So, doing that, when you look into what the actual source was, which was a production supply from Foxconn most likely, the only reason why they could tell it was a better CPU and not a GPU is because they couldn't see the GPU. They can only tell it was a better CPU from the size of the socket of the motherboard, basically, because they have the measurements there. That's the only way they could tell, just by looking at production of what they're going with the measurements of the device, of how, if the CPU could be better or not. They didn't say how much better. They didn't say what it was. They didn't say how powerful it was, just that they could tell it was better. And that's how they could tell, because they're doing production of the console. You could tell by the size of where you put the chip. Oh, this is modern. Okay, this is going to be a better CPU. We know that much. GPU, I don't know. Because why? The GPU is embedded onto the chip itself. There's no way they could tell unless they X-rayed it. You see? And it's too early also in production. They haven't, as far as they're saying, they're planning on starting production. So early specifications of what their measurements are, what have you, to prepare for production, they could tell that much just from that. So when a chip is when a console is released, when they release the specs or whatever, and they release people tear down the system and do a scan, that's how you can tell what the actual GPU is, how many compute units it has, what the graphics processor, the CPU. When they scan in the X-ray, after the console is released, that's how you can tell. Unless it's reported on by Nintendo or by some developer leaks specs, then you obviously will know what the specs are and what the chips can do for the console. When you see the games running on it, you can tell also, oh my gosh, this is way better. I can tell it's much more enhanced, But yeah, until we get more information, we'll have to wait and see. But that's what was not really gleamed upon by reports. All you see in headlines is that there's a new Switch coming with magnesium alloy body and a better CPU. Oh, okay. Well, that's just gonna be a little tiny little upgrade. No, that's you look at where the source came from actual production supply. That was actually really cool because they could tell just from the production of it, it was a better CPU from that aspect of it. Wait for actual reports from like the Wall Street Journal, but like another report from Mochizuki who says, hey, you know, this switch that was reported coming this year is actually such and it's actually going to be this powerful. You know what I mean? Because the information was too limited from a production supply vendor. So that was a really cool thing about it. And then when you combine that with what Furukawa just said about them being very interested in new technology, not just not interface, but actually technology to help the actual benefit for gaming, then that's something that was interesting, you know, because they haven't really talked about that too much, not since like Nintendo 64. So it's pretty interesting stuff. All right, so yeah, getting some lag again. Anyway, I'm gonna end the stream here anyway, so I'm sorry about that. I think it's okay now. Anyway, so I thank you guys very much for coming out in the chat. I usually spend about 2 hours. My internet was fine before I started, so I'm not sure why I was lag spiking there. So I apologize about that. But I really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting the channel. Please hit the like button on your way out. Share the video and everything if you want. And we just passed 22,000 subscribers, so thank you very much all for subscribing and everything. And I know it's exciting times. But after this new Switch is released, we'll be covering more stuff about it too. It's not just about finding out information about the console. There's going to be way more stuff to talk about once it's released or announced. Then we can go over, then we'll know what chip it is. We'll know what they're doing with it. And then we can go into more detail on what that chip will do for Nintendo. It'd be really cool. It's going to be cool stuff. Yellow Kazoo, thanks for coming out. Make sure you guys go and subscribe to Yellow Kazoo. Yellow Kazoo, I'm going to put your channel in the chat so they can subscribe to you. You're a great person. You definitely deserve the support. Go ahead and subscribe to Yellow Kazoo, guys. Let's see here. There you go. Subscribe to Yellow Kazoo. Thank you guys for coming out again. Again, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and check out my other videos. There'll be more coming soon, of course, and we'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Take care.